Welcome to the State College of Science. We will be meeting with the department heads so that you future students will have some familiarity with Martina Ramirez, understand her role, and feel comfortable coming in for a meeting or to talk about the College of Science.
You can go in there and bore people, or you can go in there and rock the room. So my name is Martina Ramirez. I'm Dean of the College of Science and Professor of Biology. So I was adopted at 9 months. So I was adopted by a Mexican-American family in Pomona, California. So they never finished high school because they grew up during the Depression. Most people, as I mentioned, had never gone to college. So they couldn't advise you on what it was like because they'd never seen it themselves. And that was the community. So I was a biology major as an undergraduate, and then I was also a biology student for my PhD. So I was one of these outdoor-oriented or science-y kids. So I always knew that science was probably going to be in my future.
Her using a telescope or other scientific object as a child is what led her to become a scientist later in life, not only being a student while she attended her undergrad, but also teaching for most of her career.
Between junior and senior year, I then got involved in a research project with a faculty member at Occidental College. So that introduced me to doing genetic research with organisms, which is something that I turned around and did do with spiders. My very first spider project was a study that I did of spider genetics when I was an undergraduate.
Spiders have been one of Dr. Ramirez's favorite species to study as they are small, making them easy to handle as test subjects, easy to attain, and better suited for large numbers.
The other mentor that I had was someone who I took upper division courses in evolution and ecology. So he was my first introduction of what the faculty life could be, kind of in a really big way. Because, in other words, he showed me kind of what kind of life you could have, because he had a big impact on my life in terms of sort of recognizing that I had talents and I should think about potentially deploying them kind of in the higher ed world. Teaching undergrads for 2 years about, in one case, chemistry, in one case, biology. Those were really super cool experiences for me because I got a chance to practice doing what I saw my faculty mentors doing. By the time I graduated, I'd seen what it was like to work with students in a teaching setting via the chem lab and then the bio lab to convince me that graduate school or being a faculty member someday.
Dr. Ramirez has worked in 12 different positions at 7 different colleges over her career.
Is how to make this stuff that initially is scary to people, kind of, like, hey, here, yeah, I mean, I know there's math, but I'm going to make it, kind of not so crazy for you. In other words, this is why this stuff matters, because it affects your daily life. When you're in the classroom, think of it kind of like as the club in LA on Friday night, okay? You can go in there and bore people, or you can go in there and rock the room. So whatever you can do to take your subject and make it like kind of chill with people, kind of like do it. When I went to Loyola Marymount in 1999, where I went as an undergrad, where I was for 22 years, I'd already worked at 4 different schools before then. So yeah, I've seen a lot of higher ed, right? And it's been good now because having a broad exposure to what higher ed can be like, that's actually an advantage, right?
Dr. Ramirez has had many experiences in her 33 years of higher ed. One of the experiences that drives her is her experience with discrimination in graduate school.
Basically, it really depended during those years which faculty member you worked with as a graduate student. Some were open to having diverse people in their graduate student pool, but others weren't. So I saw a lot of attrition of people that were in my cohort that started, and 2 or 3 years later they're gone. Sometimes just because of the fact that they're a woman or they have the wrong skin color. One of the reasons I went into facultyhood, and certainly administration, especially later on, is trying to be part of the solution. Because I recognize that administrators, department chairs, deans, provosts, presidents, they really set the tone for the units that report to them. So they're the ones that have a chance to set policy or enforce policy, to have equity and access be kind of their agenda for what they do. And higher ed has always been to try to help these institutions align their day-to-day activities with kind of the wonderful language on their website.
Thank you for taking the time to learn a bit about Dr. Ramirez.